Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. We're bringing you more Orion Soap this week. We got 8 more episodes we watched and cover. Here's Karen, as always, and we'll get right into it. Tommy, roll them credits. All right, so we're at episode 10. I don't think we're missing any episodes in this batch. I didn't feel like we were anyway.
I don't think
Everything
so.
seemed to mesh. So episode 10, we have some doctor. I didn't catch his name. I don't know if you did, but he tells
His
Bucky.
name's Clem.
Okay, I thought, I heard the name and I wasn't sure what was happening. So, and he's not on enough for me to care yet.
Well, he's the real
Um,
doctor. They're like doing their first year internship, so he's like
right.
the doctor that's in charge of them.
So he's telling Bucky to stay away from Zabo. Nell tells Bucky she got the job. Dr. Coleridge is a dim bulb, she says. um, and he introduces Nell to Faith. Jill goes to the Ryans. They discuss Roger saving Frank. Maeve believes he will come through. He's still in his coma at this point. Delia enters. Did Frank wake up? Delia, that woman. Is she
I
not like over the top? Like she's always so dramatic. It's so funny.
there's okay, so I adore Delia.
Of course, me too, but she's very troubled,
She
it
seems
seems.
like she knows things, and like they don't know what
Or
she
did
knows
things.
or did things, and it seems like she's another crack in the little wall of Frank is the perfect person ever. Like Delia, the way Delia reacts when Frank is mentioned is not the reaction of someone who's in love with their husband.
Yeah.
So it's another situation where like you're wondering who is Frank really.
She
And
almost acts like abused or something,
yes,
or
she
yeah.
does. And we'll get into it later on because she does mention because they Reed was pressuring her in a later episode about the money, and she says she wanted to buy a new pair of sandals, and he wouldn't let her buy a new pair of sandals.
Right.
So like there's something's weird's going on, but she seems
Yeah.
very. They all talk about her like she's delicate, like she's you know special needs of some variety, but she doesn't seem to be. She just seems to be maybe high strung.
And hiding something and very bad at it. Like I
Yes.
feel like somebody should just shake her and be like, "What are you hiding?"
Yes, but I don't
I
think
would like Mary to do that.
Frank doesn't wake up in this one. I think there's kind of a flashback to Frank at some point.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in this first one. I have a lot of
There
notes.
is a lot. Yeah. So we have Faith isn't really a Nell fan because she walks in and she hears her talking shit about her dad.
she
But I
says
mean, she didn't know exactly what went down.
she says Faith is a chip off the old dim bulb.
Yes.
I first off, I
Um,
love Nell. She's like my favorite.
she and Bucky talk about her dad actually likes him, or so it seems. He mentions his houseboat. I'm like, he's like, "Do you want to go to my houseboat?" She's like, "Sure." I think
Yeah.
he's thinking it's like a date, but she's thinking it's like we're hanging out. I don't know. She's very complicated as we
I
unravel this
I don't know
these few
because
episodes.
I feel like Faith has been pretty solidly saying, I don't want a date, I just want a friend. And he just keeps saying, yeah, we're friends, and then flirting with her. And then she has to slap him down and be like, I said friends. And he's like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, friends who love one another. And I'm like, Bucky, you're so cute, but no. Mhm.
Jill says there's no change for Frank when Delia that comes back. Delia talks about how she wants Frank to be hers. I'm like, what is happening? It's so confusing to me.
I think
And
I
I'm
get
like, does she know about Jill and Frank? Because she acts like she does.
I think I get it on
She's
two levels. I think for on one hand, the family treats Frank like their own personal Jesus Christ. So like he's not a real person to them, so she can't own him as a human being. And also I'm
Mm,
fairly certain she's aware of Jill. It just seems too much like her behavior is too
yeah.
much like she knows about it. She knows about
She
Jill.
she talks about like little John in front of her and like I have his baby. Like I feel like rubbing it in a way.
Yeah, I thought
And
that was
Jill's just
very
like, okay,
calculated for someone who's supposed to be
yeah,
so delicate and doesn't know what's
right.
happening.
I
Ryan's.
said she keeps going on about Frank. Jill is uncomfortable. Maeve says, weren't you hard? Weren't you a little hard on Jill when Jill leaves to Delia? Um, then Delia acts like she feels bad, but she don't feel bad. I mean, we don't know the full situation of the marriage, but we'll see. I'm sure eventually. Bucky and Faith are at the houseboat. Somebody says physical comfort is seductive, and I wrote that for some reason.
Faith said it.
Faith said it.
Wait, are we on this? I feel like oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so he does. Is that feels like episode 11?
No, it's in this one. It continues into 11. So I'll tell you what I have, and we'll go from there.
Okay, because I
Um,
feel like everything you're saying is like parts of 11. Because in this one, I do remember Bucky defending his aunt.
so yeah, so I have such an interesting person. Faith asks how he ended up with an aunt like Nell, and then I have Seneca is there. Where's he at?
Okay,
Seneca, and then
yeah,
that's the end of episode 10.
okay, so some things I have about this episode is I absolutely love that Nell got caught trash talking Ed Coleridge when Faith came in. I thought that was such a perfect moment of reality because she was
Yeah,
definitely like, this guy sucks. And I'm like, those two are going to date. I know they're going to date. It's the hate into love because they don't understand each other yet. And we're still
right.
dealing with Seneca. The other thing I like is when Bucky is defending his aunt. Yes, that's on the houseboat. And Faith is kind of like I feel the waves of depression coming over me when she's near. And Bucky's like, "What? She's a wonderful person." And then he just stops defending her because he wants to have a good time with Faith.
Yeah, yeah.
And he does get his little date. And I love how Delia says very strangely, she's like, I think every woman should have a man like Frank. Like, what does that mean? Like, what's
That's what I mean.
happening?
She's very bizarre. Like, but I feel like you said, like she's keeping stuff in, and we need her to like have a friend to yell at, so we know what's going on.
Right. And
Basically.
well, I'm just the women on this show are so fascinating. I really like Faith is such a confusing person in that
She is.
she's just so dedicated and she just doesn't give out a lot of information about herself and that line about the comfort that really struck me too because I also wrote it down. And
Right.
what I think she's trying to say is basically if you become complacent you won't ever do anything. But she said it in the most poetic and like almost deranged way. And I
Yeah.
was like, I could really get into this Bucky Faith pairing if it ever happens because like
Yeah. It's weird.
it can't happen as fast as Bucky wants it to happen though. He needs to
No.
relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, Seneca just shows up at the house at the end. Sorry, I don't know.
episode 11 starts. Nell tells Seneca to go away. He wants to know why she walked out. Says he will wrap up his work and he'll come back. And she's like, "No, I'm home. It's my turn now."
Right.
Go on. I know you want to say things.
So the whole thing about Seneca is he's full of crap because she's had this conversation with him multiple times, and she even says in
He
this
never listened to
conversation
her.
he never listens to her. And the last time she put aside her dreams for his, 3 years passed and she got nothing.
Yeah.
And he does not compromise. You're going to hear from him through this whole episode, and he's going to say the same exact thing 4 or 5 times, which is, you come do what I want. And then in 6 to 9 months, maybe we'll come back here and do what you want. But it's never anything other than that. He can't even say, well, listen, do your thing here for 6 to 9 months. I'll wrap up my work and join you here. And you can get us an apartment and get us all set up and I'll meet you here. It's never that. It's always, you have to be where I want you to be and be doing what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And she's like,
come with me. I'll do this, and then we'll come back. And and he says
it's
6 months.
a lie. It's a lie.
That 6 months is going to turn into a year, and so on and so on.
And
So yeah, she's done. She's totally done. You can tell she's done.
And she loves him. That's the sad part, is she's still
Yeah.
absolutely in love with him.
And I think he does love her, but like in a messy way.
I think he loves her in a way where he sees her as a possession
Right.
and that she's a little toy that needs to sit wherever he puts her and stay there. And
Which
she's
most
not.
men thought that in the 70s.
According to soaps, yes.
So we get to Johnny and Dr. Ed Coleridge. They talk about when Faith was little while with Frank. He wants answers. Who's Johnny? I forget.
Wait, what story are we talking about? Because
Johnny and Ed are talking. So Johnny says not sure. Money was Frank's. He talks to Frank, hoping he gets through to Frank.
okay, so
Oh, Johnny, the dad. The dad.
John's the dad, and he's in there talking to his son. Um, I don't know. They're just talking. I'm so sick of hearing about Frank. I can't even tell you. Ed comes in and they start talking about this missing $6,500, and they tell some kind of weird story about how they were friends forever. And Coleridge tells a story about Faith choking on a balloon, and I think I blacked out.
Yeah, it has a flashback of Frank and him talking about his grandson, Little John, after Johnny uh, read for Bob. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the most, and now remember, this is from a woman a billion years in the future, but that was the most sexist conversation between the father and Frank. It was literally like about how the sister had twins, but they were girls. So I feel like this one's my first grandchild because it's a boy and he can carry on what my father did, and then I carried on what my father did, and then you carried on what I did, and he can carry on whatever I didn't finish. And it was the most egotistical bullshit conversation I'd ever heard. And they finished that up with Frank going, "We're gonna name him John." And I was like, kill me. It was so garbage. And I know it's supposed to be sweet and like a carrying on of the line, but it just shows how much like the attitude on children has changed from your
Right.
child is just like the next generation of you to like their own person. So I really like I was wincing through the entire thing. And I know it's supposed to be cute and I know it's supposed to be sweet, but for me, bleh.
Meanwhile, on the houseboat, this is probably what you were thinking.
Yes,
Faith
probably.
Faith thinks Nell is arrogant. He champions Nell. He's, awful because it's his aunt, of course, and she's a decent person from what we know for like what 10 episodes that we saw. Faith say Jill avoided medicine. She became a lawyer. I guess because Faith and Jill are sisters or whatever. And I guess everybody in the family is into medicine except for her.
Hmm.
She doesn't like Roger, who her own brother, for some reason, which we know
She's
he's a
not the
little
only one.
scoundrel.
Jill says the same thing later on. She says she
And
doesn't
then
like Roger.
and then I just put they are sweet. They're being kind of cute, even though they're not on a date. But I don't know.
They're
They're just
having a
hanging out.
moment where
Friends hanging out.
they're getting to know each other. And
Right.
Bucky shares that the reason he loves Nell so much is because she was the outlier in his family. She drove a sports car. She snuck him medical textbooks. His father's a shoe salesman. Like, I don't know if that's true because Bucky's hiding how rich he is. So I don't really know how true
Yeah.
that is. And then
Yeah.
Faith comes back and is just like, yeah, I did the same thing everyone else in my family did. I wanted to be like my dad, so I'm a doctor. Jill's the one that's a lawyer. Like Jill did something wrong.
I know. I really want to know more about Jill. I really am very interested in
We
Jill.
get a lot of hints about Jill in these episodes, and
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what some of the lines Jill says later on mean. When we get there, we'll talk about it. But
Right.
Jill is a very interesting Coleridge. Actually, all of them are. I like the Coleridges because
Yeah, same.
they don't tell us anything. Like the Ryans,
Well,
I feel
except the
like,
dad.
yeah, I feel like
You
they're
don't like the sexist father.
stand around and they just tell you everything about themselves all the time. And it's like irritating. It's like, yes, Mary, we know.
Well, that's the point because everybody has to tell the Ryans to have hope. Ryan's hope.
Oh, stupid.
That's what I'm
Ryans.
getting from it. So anyway, Nell and Seneca chat. They continue on. She says she got a job. she learned from him. She is tired of living for him. He says, please no. She said, that almost did it. But go away, Seneca.
I was like, the
She
best
doesn't
part
want a
about
divorce. She doesn't want a divorce, but she just
no.
wants to be left alone.
But it's so funny because this entire conversation is just Seneca saying over and over again, but what about me? Like, I know you have dreams, but what about me? Who's going to cook for me or clean for me or stand around and look pretty when I want you to be? And she's just
Right.
like, what about me and my dreams? And he's like, but what about me? And like, he's just so crazy. And when she's still like, it's so sad because she's so in love with him. And she's just like, I love you. And if you had said anything other than get on the plane and come back with me, maybe we would have had a chance, but get the hell out. And I was like, yes,
I know
absolutely.
it's still early on and we don't know Seneca too well, and I think it's the acting, but I feel like I don't know, I'm interested in him. You know what I mean? Like I want to know more about them.
I'm
So I think they're
curious.
doing good with writing.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very curious about their relationship a little more close up if we get to see it. But
Yeah,
I do like the part where Nell said the best time is always now. Because he kept trying
right,
to push everything off. And then when he couldn't push everything off, he started going, well, why now? It's too late. It's basically too late for your dreams. And she's like, the best time is always now. And I was like, that's fantastic writing. Fantastic writing. I loved it.
right.
Good stuff.
So Donnie leaves, I guess Frank's bedside, whatever. Faith and Ed, they talk about Bucky, and I'm confused at what they're talking. She says she wants to see him socially, but I guess just as a friend, she's saying to her dad, because she's like putting it in his head.
He got confused about that too, because he thought she was saying that she wanted to date him. Because see him socially is old fashioned for
Mhm.
date. And
That's what I thought.
he was like, Bucky's a great guy. I love Bucky. You should definitely date Bucky. Like in a very sedate 70s kind of way. He was like, yeah, maybe you want to do that. And she's like, you're getting the wrong idea. I made a friend for the first time ever. Faith, what is happening? And he's like, okay, well, that's fine, I guess. Have a friend. And he was just like, Bucky's okay, I guess.
And oh, and then I said they may never. He said something about like they may never get answers to like Frank or whatever, and then he wakes up when they leave, as per usual.
Yeah, he's just
And
like
that's the end of that one.
he opens his eyes and you're just like, "Yay, I get to stop hearing about Frank and see Frank do things." No. No, I don't get that. We go into episode
Episode
12.
episode 12. Nell gets to work. Ed and she talk a bit. Roger meets Nell. He
Roger
takes her under
flirts
his
with Nell.
he takes her under his wing, and they seem to click.
Yeah.
Bucky and Pat chat. He tries to cheer Pat up. He tells about he and Faith. Roger is the first. Oh God, I can't read my own writing. The first something surgeon, but doesn't like him. Nobody likes Roger. Really, we need to find out more about Roger too.
We know he's a consummate gambler. We know he has a bookie and we know he stole the money and we know he saved Frank's life, but nobody likes him.
Um, they say that Frank has a way with girls, which we know already. And
That's a cute
he
way of
says,
saying he's a cheating hoe.
and he says, start with flowers. Like try to get flowers. He's giving advice about Faith.
Yeah.
Um, Ed comes to Pat, says he's responsive to loud noises. So I guess he woke up and went right back to sleep. I'm guessing is that what's happened.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot going on in this episode for relationships. I think that Pat's advice to Bucky is never going to be the right advice to work on Faith. I
Mhm.
thought it was really cute that he was trying to help, but also kind of, I don't know. I didn't really like the way he was helping. I thought he was pushing too hard. Like, this is a girl that nobody can take out on a date. And Bucky managed to get her to his house and have like a whole dinner and hang out. He's doing fine. He doesn't need help. And Pat is like, push it to dating, push it to dating. And I felt like in this scene, I was like, it's a little too hard, a little too fast. Like,
I didn't feel like he was saying push it because he was like do little things like to kind of you know help out. But
I think he was being pushy.
well, I don't think so.
Well, he
Leave Pat Ryan alone.
no, he was like, leave flowers for her everywhere, but don't tell her it's you. I'm like, that could be scary. Like that's
I know that could be scary,
stalking. Okay, again, I'm looking at it from a future lens. But like,
especially in the 70s. Though I feel like that was a scary thing because
you
there was
know how many
murderers happening
serial
back then. A lot of
killers were active in the 70s? It's like Green River Killer
exactly.
time. Yeah, so like I didn't like that. I think Pat was doing it. He was trying to be a good friend, but I think that Pat's approach with women is not going to work the same way. Like Bucky is too sweet to use like Pat's kind of like smarmy charmy
Yeah.
way of hitting on women. So I don't know. I don't know. I also
So
feel like when Roger was talking to Nell, like I said, he was flirting and it was being really cute. And I forget. Okay. Let me talk about this office and how big this office is and how they keep
well, that's what.
constantly complaining
Well,
about
yeah,
how tiny it is.
that's what I was going to say. So Nell gets to her office. Roger basically wonders how she got on staff. She tells him Marshall is her cousin, which I didn't remember that. Did we know that?
Hmm.
We knew that she knew Marshall, but I didn't remember that it was her cousin. And I said he seems interested in her. And then Seneca comes in, and yes, the office was huge.
It was enormous. It was enormous. And they all walk
It
in and
was.
act like they just walked into my apartment. They're like, it's so small and gross. And I'm like,
It's
rude.
bigger than our apartments, I
It
believe.
is. It's much bigger than my apartment. Like it's bigger than my living room for sure. And everyone who walks into that room looks at it and goes, ugh, ugh. And but except Roger, because Roger walks in and he goes, oh yeah, you said he couldn't find any room for you, huh? Oh, well, looks like he found room for you easy enough, you know? And like that
Right.
whole situation where Roger's just like, what did you twist his arm off? Did you do and I was like, I kind of like Roger as the black sheep of the family
I
because
do. I
they
don't.
are
I mean,
weird.
we know he's into some things, obviously, because he stole the money.
Right, right. But for gambling debts, that's a thing.
Right. Roger goes to Zabo. Frank was
Yeah.
in there. Frank was in there the day before, I guess. I think we're still what 2 days later. I'm confused. Time. We never
No,
know
no, no,
time in
no. So
soaps.
before Frank fell down the stairs, an hour before Frank fell down the stairs, he went to
He was
visit
in with
Nick.
Zabo,
He went to visit Nick Zabo. Now Zabo lies about what he went there for, but
of
he
course.
said campaign contribution, I think he said once. And then he said something else the second time. So it's just like he asks about Frank. He wants to
He
know
said
what's going on.
he wanted his credit cut.
Oh, he wanted
As
Roger's credit line cut off.
yeah,
And they're like, why? And he's like, I don't know. You just asked.
yeah. Didn't tell Bob. Keep cops away. Threatens to break. Uh, threatens to break more toes.
That was so funny because he was like, you know how my friends dropped a bowling ball on your foot and broke 3 of your toes? Basically, like, you know what else they can do to you? And I was like, that is such a fun mob way of threatening someone.
Yeah.
Cute, cute, cute.
So Seneca's at Nell's office, saying the
Oh,
same things again.
go away,
He wants her
Seneca.
back. She says no, he'll do anything she wants. He flunked the list he made for himself instead of
That
trying
was
to win her
cute.
back again.
I like that.
It was like he's trying in his head. Um, he says they'll come back. She wants him to stay. He tries to kiss her. She says, "You won't go around me that way."
Yeah.
He says he will finish. Says he loves her. And that's that pretty much with that scene.
One of the things in that scene too is like he has this list and the list even before he does the list he says the spark between us needs to be recaptured. So it seems like they were having other problems as well. And I think it just got to he was busy doing his work and ignoring her and she was just sitting around watching her life go by. And
Right.
it's not that they don't love one another or that obviously she loves him, but I feel like he says like we need to get that zing back. We need to recapture that love. And it's like, why are you trying so hard if you
And
feel this way?
I guess Ed wants Seneca on his staff because he seems interested in him.
He's
And I
a
know Seneca
super
does big things.
yeah, he's a super famous researcher, so he was really excited to see him. And I think he was a little upset that he caught Nell in a private moment. because he stops being rude and sexist to her as of this scene.
Yeah.
As soon as he sees her as a human being, he stops acting like an ass. And I really liked it. Like the look on his face was so sad. And then he was just like, do you want to like maybe go to dinner?
Yeah.
And I was like, that was really sweet. He was like, okay, maybe I could, and I see that they're gonna date. They have to date.
Yeah, they do. They have a little chemistry there, and things. I like when they start things up, but then not now. There's Seneca though, and you know his ass is going to come back there.
I don't care
So
about Seneca. I'm like,
I'm
Mel,
excited to
go away,
see.
Seneca, go away.
Well, no, I like a good triangle. Okay, so I want to
Sure.
see all three of them. A throuple.
That might be fun. Oh, it's too early in the timeline for that kind of stuff.
Episode 13. Mary is with Frank. Roger comes in. Says he looks better today. Delia comes in, very dramatic.
Suppose he never wakes up.
I like the line. She says, under his tan, he seems pale. Who wrote that? I think we're all pale under our tans. I mean, we're palies, but I'm saying.
She also calls him a vegetable, and I laughed really hard.
Yeah, she asks about brain damage and yeah, the vegetable, and then Mary gets pissed off.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong to ask those questions. She's just a little insensitive in how she presents everything.
Well, I think she's witty still. She's just like, what about this? Like she's just letting it all come out. Like she don't care. We have a nurse. We know Nurse Gonzalez's name is Ramona.
Yay!
We meet her officially, name wise. Then her and Bucky chat about his flower surprise for Faith, and they talk about angels and stuff.
I thought it was a really, really sweet scene between them.
It was. I liked it.
Ramona came in hot, and then by the end of the scene, she gave Bucky permission to call her by her first name. And they don't do that because the doctors and nurses aren't allowed to do that. So she just basically said to him, we are friends. And she told him that cute story, and I think it was a story about Puerto Rico and how the orchid represents angels and all this stuff. It was very sweet.
Yeah, because even when she was about to leave, he's like, Nurse Gonzalez, Ramona.
It was sweet.
Roger and Mary talk about Delia. And I like that she says, Mary says that she can't handle bad things. She's like, she's good in everything, in every situation, but when bad things happen, she just gets like loony like this.
Well, I also think that Mary and Maeve and John and all them are delusional. Like they won't accept any answers that are anything less than Frank will make a full recovery. What if he doesn't?
Right.
Help yourself. Like be ready to help him.
Yeah, they're very positive. They have hope. Jack is there to see Miss Gonzalez or Nurse Gonzalez.
I hate you.
To see how Frank is. Tries to get info about Nick. She knows he's a reporter, so she's not really giving him any leeway. She's like, yeah, I know who you are, buddy. Sorry, I'm giving you the bare minimum. I hope Nurse Gonzalez hangs. I think she does hang around because I remember seeing some later episodes, and I believe she's still there. Because eventually Anna Alicia comes in.
I love her.
Not for a while. I mean, there's a lot of for like 3 or 4 years, right before Falcon Crest.
Every time anyone gets information at the desk, I'm like, no HIPAA, because telling them all their personal business.
So after the scene, so Jack goes in to see Mary, and Roger doesn't seem to be happy. I'm like, is Roger into Mary? I wonder if they have a past.
Is because he's very cute about the way he comforts her, and he like touches her arm.
Yeah,
very comfortable around him, and we know that both families grew up together, so we're not really sure how Mary sees Roger, but it looks like Roger has a crush on Mary.
This is definitely setting up for some good shit. Like
we're literally
getting these trios.
Yeah, we're opening the field for chemistry, and I'm seeing it everywhere.
It's good, and there's so many it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Bob gets there, sees Delia. She is upset, and now she's mad. She's upset because she made Mary mad. So she's telling everybody, "I made Mary mad. What did I do? Blah blah blah."
actually thought
So I
Mary was
have
a little awful to her, and then she felt bad about making Mary mad, and I'm like, she's still in shock, and she's the wife, and everyone treats her secondary, like to themselves.
right.
They're weird.
Um,
Ryans are
we have
weird.
we have a character Harvey. I have Harvey gets in. I put dude at first, but then found out his name was Harvey. Attacking Mary for shady stuff.
Oh, he's another reporter. He comes in and he wants to
Oh,
know
right.
what the situation is with Frank, and he starts questioning her about the $6,500 because this seems like a bribe. This is a lot of money for
Yeah.
Frank to just have in his pocket at the time of the attack, and now the money
So
is missing.
they're trying to get the story. Now, do you think so? I'll finish this and then we'll talk. Jack says leave them alone, escorts him out. He's the reporter saying what happened is no accident, or no, Jack says what happened is no accident, and he's going to get it, the story basically.
Mhm.
So, like, do you think he just said that to appease them, like to get him away, or do you think he's really trying to get the story?
I think it's both. I think he wanted to run the other reporter off because he was upsetting Mary and he likes Mary. But I
Right,
also think what he was telling
and he
him
wants the story.
that he wants the story. Like he's not going to stop being a reporter just because he thinks Mary's hot. Like that's not going to happen. From what we understand,
Right,
he's a top-notch reporter because we'll find out when he talks to Zabo. Is that in the next one?
I
But
believe so.
when he talks to Zabo, Zabo references an article that Finelli wrote. So he's not going to just turn around and drop the story because he likes Mary. He already told her
Yeah,
that in the beginning. He told her when he liked her, like he said that he would drop the story if she went on a date with him and she told him to go to hell. So like he's like got integrity, and that
right.
as a reporter, it's kind of a rare quality, but like he's a good reporter. He's not going to drop this story just because of his newfound friendship with Mary.
Yeah.
He'd tell her that if she asked, but she hasn't.
So, episode 14, we have Faith finds the flower. Bucky is there. She says you misunderstood. She knows automatically what's happening.
Yes.
Um, and then it goes into another scene. Maeve comes home. Delia's playing with flowers.
Delia
She,
she set up a beautiful tea party for Maeve because she felt bad about all the trouble they've been going through for her. So she was literally arranging carnations in a vase. I thought it was adorable.
playing with flowers.
Uh-huh. She even
She
ran the
fills
vacuum for her. She made tea.
she fills her in on being at the hospital, tells a story about her and Johnny. Delia fills her in on Mary getting mad.
Hmm.
Mary comes home, says she wanted to wring her neck as Delia listens, because I guess Delia left the room to get tea or something, like you said.
Yeah, she went into the other room with
Um,
the teapot on, and then Mary's a huge bitch.
um, Delia, she comes back in, she says, and then says she thinks Mary doesn't like her.
I thought that was really brave because she came in and she kind of basically went, yeah, you know what? Sometimes, Mary, I really don't think you actually like me at all. And like she said that right to her face. And here Mary's being a two-faced cow by saying all that shit when she knew Dealey was in the house. And she didn't care if she heard her. I mean, I love Kate Mulgrew, but I don't like Mary very much.
I like Mary.
Of course you do.
Bucky said he had a good time. She only wants friendship. She wants to be honest.
She crushed it.
Maybe another time they could be more than friends. I'm like, what is happening?
She's
Is
letting
this
him
where
down
you?
easy. She's letting him down easy. She's saying, I only wanted to be friends. I've been hurt, so I don't want to have another relationship right now.
I have. She was hurt before. She's moody. They can still hang out.
So what happened was she was dating someone for years and they trashed her heart. And she said she didn't recover. It's been a year since that happened. She didn't recover. So she wants to spend her first year as a medical doctor doing her internship and doing nothing else. She told
And
him
be dateless.
previously, yeah, she told him previously, I'm not ready to date. I only want to be friends. And he is absolutely devastated. And I felt so bad for him. But like she told you this, like this is not new information.
It's
But
true. It's
you
true.
let Pat put information into your head and you went for it, and then Ramona reinforced it because everybody loves love, but nobody cared what Faith wanted.
Right. So Bucky checks on Frank. Jill comes in and she has a flashback of she and Frank. He asks what she wants besides them together.
Hmm.
And I have jelly beans. Did she make a joke?
She wants. Okay, so she says she doesn't want a ring. She doesn't want anything. But what she
Right.
does want is a 50-pound sack of jelly beans because she said, I've never had enough jelly beans. And at that moment, I was like, I really like Jill.
I know, I do too.
Oh, and also for the poetry side of things, Frank recites a poem to her. And
Hmm.
it is W.B. Yeats, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. So it's a story. These people with their poems.
They love poems.
You're going to hear another one from Faith as we go on.
He wants to give her Jill a ring, and I put she is cool with being a side piece.
Yeah, that seems weird to me. Like, if you know Delia's in the picture and Frank and Delia have a son, what kind of, for lack of a better word, asshole are you? Like, to come in here
Yeah,
and do this to a whole family and then be
I
like,
know.
I
That's
guess
what,
I can be on the side piece if you give me 50 pounds of jelly beans.
right. That's why we need more. We need more. We're getting fed nuggets.
Yeah, yeah.
um, I have Mary says sorry to Delia, or sorry if Delia feels that way. Jill is there when Frank speaks. He says Delia. The end of that one.
I loved that, by the way. So one thing that Delia said was she just looks straight at Mary and she goes, I know I'm not liked. I know people don't like me. And she's like, my mother was crazy. My father ran off. Like, I know that like I'm a problem. And then Mary had to backtrack and try and cover up for the fact that she mouthed off and was rude. And like Delia knows because it's so funny. And then Jill is like waiting for Frank to wake up and say her name. And then he says Delia. And I'm like, because Delia probably pushed him down the stairs.
Right. So we get into episode 15. Jill tells Frank to try staying awake. Bucky goes to Nell's office. They talk about Seneca. Say if he stayed east, they could have worked it out. He
Mhm.
talks about Faith. So they're just catching up. Mary comes in and talks to Frank. Jill says he asked for Delia. Ed comes in to examine him. They get excited. They want to keep campaigning. Frank mumbles, then wakes.
Yeah, I don't have a lot on this episode because I feel like episode 15 recaps what happened in the last couple episodes. So we just
Yeah,
have,
I think they do that stuff.
yeah, we have characters meeting and which we like. We love this on General Hospital. Characters meeting and catch each other up on each other's storylines.
Right.
I think the big thing from this was I was just like, Nell recaps Seneca to Bucky, and then I wrote feminism and underlined it because Bucky goes, "Oh, it's such a shame that things are ending. Like, I like Seneca," and she was basically like, "I like Seneca too, but he doesn't know how to compromise and he doesn't know how to be a good partner." So
Right.
I
I
like
have,
that.
I have Frank needs X-ray. They talk about swelling and doctor stuff.
So
And then
what?
I have one more thing, and that's it. Hold
So
on,
what?
I'll say this real
Go
quick.
ahead.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Mary tells Frank he will be all right. He remembers his fall as she is talking, talks about Delia coming, mumbles, opens his eyes. He says, push. That's all
Yeah.
I got.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, so I have to tell you that it is driving me insane from this point on how many characters come into the room, sit down, and scream at Frank. So you're just
Well, he said he reacts to loud noises. They got to scream at
I
Frank.
hate these people. So like I have very few notes from episode 15 because like I said, it was a bunch of recaps. And I just
Yeah, that's
kept
all I
writing,
had.
I was like, Mary and Jill screaming at coma patient. Ed, Ramona, they do these horrific tests to Frank to see if they can wake him up. Like Ed pulls a huge one of those big diaper pins out and stabs him with it. And when he doesn't react, he literally starts ripping his arm hair out. And I'm like, this cannot be a scientific test. You're stabbing the patient and ripping his hair out. Like this
You
is
just wait till you're in a coma. That's what I'm going to do to you. Hi,
God.
Karen.
I'm gonna talk
I'm,
to Roger, and I'm gonna make sure you're not allowed in my room.
I'm
I'll threaten
going
him
to
with a
bring in
bowling
the
ball.
I'm gonna bring in a giant safety pin.
Oh my
I'm
God.
ready.
It was so shocking, right? And I was painting my fingernails. That's why my notes are all janky. But like, I was like, oh yeah, you can't write when your nails are wet. And
Right.
oh, and I was like, what are they doing to this man? And then literally, like before that, 5 minutes before that happens, everyone is like, Frank, Frank, wake up! And they're all screaming. And I was like, thank heaven that like there are so many advances in treatment for patients because this literally was like torture the man till he wakes up, torture
Right.
him till he speaks, shake him till he talks. And Mary literally spends the last 5 to 10 minutes of the episode yelling at him, and then he says, "Push, right, Delia, push, Delia, push." And then like the next episode, when you're ready, starts with her screaming at him until he says it again.
Yeah. That's what. So episode 16. Frank says push again. Mary asks if he was pushed.
Yeah.
Jill comes back with Nell. Mary goes to look for Bob. I guess because they want the detective on the case.
Yeah, Mary wants to tell Bob Reed what happened because now she's convinced that Frank was pushed down the stairs.
Right. Jill and Ed talk about relating to people. The Ryans were always there for her. Talks about Maeve being strong, and then I put her mom as a deadbeat. I guess
Okay, so
we don't know
there's
about
an
her mom.
interesting little piece in there. She
Oh, is
says
this what you were talking about?
she says to
Yeah.
Ed that her mother didn't want to adopt her and her mother didn't love her from the moment she was brought home. Now,
Mm,
where did she come from? Is she an illegitimate child of Ed's? Where did she come from? You don't just find a white baby and get to adopt it.
right.
Like they're expensive.
Right.
So it's like where did she come from? And the most likely explanation is Ed cheated on the mother and had another kid and brought it
Right.
home. Or Ed has a friend who died and she took the baby home. But like then she's just like, I could never, the mother, she's like, Maeve was more of a mother to me than my mother. And I'm like, well, if I were like a Monica Quartermain in that situation, I would not love that baby the moment it was put into my arms. It's like a weird situation. Guys,
Yeah.
I'm a General Hospital freak. But anyway, like that is a really strange, it's a strange little piece of information for the puzzle.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more.
Yeah, like
I need more.
Who is Jill?
I know, right? Mary finds Bob, tells him about Frank. He wants to he wants to go. She says no. Um,
What?
I don't know. He wants to go. She says no. I don't know. May have pneumonia. Says he knew Frank was pushed. I don't know what that
Your
was about.
notes are insane. So what happens is when Mary speaks to Reed, she wants to go immediately and tell the parents everything that's going on. And he's like, don't get their hopes up. He's not even awake yet. And then he tells her not to tell anyone that Frank said push because he's going to go to the police department and tell the chief of police what's happening. And she needs to keep it to herself because we don't want to let anyone know that we think he was pushed because it makes it harder for us to find out who did it. That's the conversation we have at the table. And Mary is so over the top. He's going to be absolutely fine. He said one word. That means he's perfect. And I'm just like, you need to grow up. From what they were saying earlier, he had a softening in his spine. He had a subdermal hematoma, which they drained. He had spinal cracks. Like he could be paralyzed from the neck down.
He's got a lot going on.
Yeah, and they're shaking him while he's unconscious. This is a smart plan.
So Seneca calls as Nell is trying to hunt down another portable X-ray machine.
Go away, Seneca!
Trying to get her to go to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. She says no. She asks Ed if he knows of an apartment available because now she wants to stay permanently. He asks her to dinner. She says another time because she's busy, right now.
Well, she's busy being sad and dealing with her problems. And he was just like, when people are sad, you offer them food.
Mary tells everybody, Johnny and Maeve, that Frank woke up. Mm-hmm. Maeve says she will wait with Frank till he wakes again, I guess.
Also, Delia looks horrified.
That's what I was going to say. They
They,
tell Delia she is surprised. Did he say anything else? Delia runs out
well,
at the end of that.
first, while they're telling the story of how Frank woke up, the camera focuses in on Delia, right? Perfect direction. Whoever the cameraman and the director was, brilliant. So, like, it focuses in on Delia's face, right? She looks horrified. Like, she is both scared and terrified. Like, she is all emotion all at once. And they're
Hmm.
all like, "Oh my God, it's great! It's the most wonderful thing ever. He's gonna wake up and everything's gonna be fine." She bolts out of that room like her ass is on fire. And it's just like that's the end. And I'm like, did she push him down the damn stairs? Is that what happened? Like, what's happening? And we did earlier when like when Reed interrogated her about the money was the sandal story. And like even in that conversation, she's like, Frank was always really tight with the money. He never let me have the money. I never had any money. And it's just like, okay, she never had any money, but he had $6,500 from nowhere. Like it's again, it just makes Frank look like a nightmare. And these people
Yeah.
literally, they're like own personal Jesus time. They're like, Frank is everything. So I don't know. I don't like these Ryans, man.
Episode 17, last episode
Yay.
of this batch.
Yay.
Bob tells the captain about what Frank said. Hopefully, Frank will tell us. Delia gets to the hospital, talks to Jill, wants to know what Frank said when he woke. Delia says how much she has to do at home. She will bring little John over.
Yeah, but that's the whole conversation we were talking about earlier is when Delia is in this conversation, she is sticking it to Jill through the entire
Right.
conversation. And I was like, you cannot tell me that she doesn't know they're sleeping together. Like she does. Because why would
Yeah.
she be saying all the things? Like she is like sticking that pin in over and over again into Jill.
I know she's really panicky, so she's especially crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Bucky and Faith talk. Says she didn't make her feelings clear. She gives him an art piece. I put sweet but weird.
No, it's not weird. It's not weird at all. In the last episode, when they were on the
It
houseboat,
is weird because
it's
I feel
not
like
weird.
it's giving mixed signals, you ass.
No, it isn't.
Totally is. You
No, it
just gave
isn't.
what you said that you want to be friends and then you're giving them this. I disagree strongly.
Present, because when they had the conversation about her just wanting to be friends, she felt like she wasn't understood and that she was not turning down his friendship and his time and his company. She just didn't want a romantic relationship. The ship represents that she was listening to him when he told her all about how he loved boats and stuff. And Bucky takes
Right.
it that way. He takes it exactly that way. He's super excited about it in that way until Pat comes and starts pushing towards the romantic again. And the painting is cute. I
Hmm.
love it. And there was another poem in there, and I forget what poem it was. I wrote it down.
Nobody ever gives time. I feel like maybe a week later that would have been good, not 5 minutes later.
No, because she really knew she hurt his feelings, and she didn't want him to misunderstand where she was coming from. I felt like
Right.
I felt like she did a really good job. I know, shut up, you're wrong. But like I did,
You're wrong.
she really you suck. But like she did a really good job of bringing him something that showed that she was interested in him as a person, not as a romantic interest, and that she had enjoyed their time together. It was a little picture of a boat after he told her all those stories about how he loved boats. It was a friendship.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Jack visits Nick, tells him he knew nothing about Frank's campaign. Bob comes in, then leaves to talk to Jack. Bob warns Jack not to upset the Ryans, even though I feel like they're already upset. Bucky tells Pat about the painting Faith gave him. She walks in. Pat pushes Bucky to take Faith out. Now he's being pushy.
He was pushy
He
last time.
asks, I don't think he was.
We're wrong.
He just asked advice,
Wrong.
and then that was also up to Bucky. Like he asked for advice. That was on him.
Should never
Pat
listen to
could
his
be wrong.
friend.
He asks her to a movie and dinner. She says yes.
Yeah, and he was careful because he almost did something right after she gave him the painting. Like, so he realized he can't push too hard too fast. And he really should just take the time to be her friend. And then they were all like, take her on a date. And she was going to say no until he said, well, we can make an early night of it. Because he was just like, we'll just do the thing and then you can go home, which gave her a way of feeling like it is a friend hangout, not a date.
Right,
so
right.
I think he needs to move cautiously with her because he could lose the friendship if he pushes too hard, too fast.
Right.
Also, did you notice that Nick Szabo's room had so many flowers in it?
I know.
Our whole wall is flowers.
I know. I want to know more about these people. Like, I just need more. Hopefully, we get to learn more, and they're not just like temporary.
Yes.
Delia acts super guilty.
Yeah.
Bob startles her. Bob asks her about the money Frank had.
Yeah.
Delia flips out about the money. Delia cries. Pat comes over to her. Bob's asking all sorts of questions. She tells him he doesn't think it was an accident, which we already, are knowing
we
that stuff. And
already
that's all I
knew.
got. That's all I got for that episode.
So
anything else you got?
Yeah, there's a few things. Nick Szabo's hilarious. Like he set up Roger so that nobody would come into his room, and then Finale comes right into his room, and he's just like, "What is this? I don't know. Why are you here? I don't know anything." So then Reed comes in, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And he just basically goes, "My room is not a political rally. Get the hell out!" And everybody's like, and the one guy's like, "I'll come back later when you're more disposed to talk," and he goes, "I won't be. Don't come back." And it's funny because Reed was there because he was looking for Finale. He wasn't even looking for Szabo. He just thought he could rattle his cage while he was there. And Nick is not rattled and does not care. And he was on the phone with his bookie 5 minutes earlier. He does not care. I do like Finale and Reed interacting because remember, Reed used to be Frank's partner. So Finale thinks he's suspect anything he says. And I literally feel like Finale stood there and said ACAB. It was very funny for something that happened way before that movement.
Right.
All of it seemed to be really like pushing towards the idea that Delia knows a ton more than she's telling, and that Frank is a much worse person than his family are telling us he is. Because she does act like she's abused. She's skittish. She's nervous. She doesn't trust the family. And she used to be in love with Pat, and she keeps running to Pat for comfort because I guess Pat and Reed is her brother, are the only two people she seems to feel safe around.
Right.
What is that about?
Very weird. We need more answers, damn it.
What's your speculation? What do you think's coming? Who's going to be
with I don't know. I don't know. There's so much. I mean, we're only a month into the series, really. We watched about 4 weeks worth of episodes, so.
I think Nell and Ed are going to end up together. I think we're going to find out that Delia pushed him down the stairs or saw him push down the stairs. And
oh no.
And I'm hoping Frank wakes up and he's not fine because I just want to stick it to the Ryans.
Maybe it's one of those things that Delia wanted to push him down the stairs, but somebody else, or she wanted to do something, but somebody else did it, and she saw, and maybe it's somebody that she's protecting. I don't know.
She is Ava Jerome's mom, and Ava has killed people, so she could be possible, like capable, like she could be.
Ava's not alive yet, though. At this point,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But no, I don't know. Like I feel like you said, I feel like we're lining up a lot of pieces to like knock down later. I don't know where we're going with Seneca because like he's got two options: disappear or finish up his work in a month and show up.
He's coming home. Now I wonder if he will like maybe Nell will get closer to Ed, is it?
Yeah.
And then maybe he'll show up when they're involved a little bit more. I don't know. There's so many possibilities. There's really a lot that can happen.
I don't think Seneca is good for Nell, not just from these episodes, but from the first batch of episodes. When she and Bucky were describing the relationship, it sounded like very obsessive on both sides. So I don't know if they're good for one another.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that goes down the line. Like I'm curious about that. Also, I want to know, like, is this Finale Mary thing going to go anywhere, or are we going more towards like Mary seems to have chemistry with Finale, with Reed, and with Roger. Because like even when
Well,
Reed,
she could have been involved with Reed at some point. They grew up together, so I mean, we don't know the history of them yet, you know?
but when they're in conversations with each other, these are the three men that move very close into her and do have a tendency to
Right,
touch her when they're talking to her. So
right.
I wonder, like you said, like was there a relationship with Reed or Roger at some point that's over, or is it
We need
just
more.
we don't have any? I know I'm speculating, and I'm speculating on a soap that's been over for 100 years. But
You're speculating on, you know, on 14 more years of show. Anything
well,
could happen.
what's the point of watching it if you're not going to have the fun of taking it apart and trying to figure out who goes where and then seeing if you're right? I want to know if I'm
I
right.
know, right?
Did Delia push him
I
down the
know.
steps?
I need more info. I need another month. Maybe I'll be able to like know the direction of things
I'll be
more.
checking in. I'll be like, what do you think now?
But anyway, we'll wrap this episode of Queers and Soaps up. We'll get you more Ryan's Hope soon enough. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great one, everyone. Subscribe, like, comment. Let us know what you think of Ryan's Hope if you watched it.
No
Let
spoilers.
us know. Who are your faves? Yeah, no, you know, no major spoilers. How about that? If people end up together, you know, we don't care about that because then they'll be apart anyway. It's a soap. Have a good day, everyone.